Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Jai. So we're continuing with this popular series, the Bhaktivedanta Library something seminar. Yeah. Uh, and in the beginning, we did this because different people said, talk on this, talk on that, talk on this, talk on that. So we decided on Friday night, we just hear based on Prabhupada's books, whatever people wanted to talk about. You know, yeah, we want to talk about a few things before we leave this planet. So the first night we made a presentation on first Friday night, the Prabhupada's books, the Bhaktivedanta Library, which includes the Isopanishad, right? Yeah. Uh, the Vedas talk about everything. They talk about architecture, philosophy, medicine, political science, all these things. Ayurveda, Gandharva Veda, Danda, so many things. Okay. Yeah. And the Vedas themselves, they talk about complete self-realization. And the very headlines, the essential features of the Vedas are the Upanishads. And so the only thing that we have, which is actually directly Veda, you might say, is the Isopanishad. And maybe that's the reason Prabhupada translated it, seems like, because it's very, very considered very classical, very authoritative. The Vedanta Sutra, the Upanishads, and the Purana, and then the Bhagavad Gita, Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya, everybody try and show your philosophy is based on these. Okay. So then we have that. That's a Shruti. Then after that, we have the Gita Upanishad, which is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, very authoritative. We have that. And then we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. And basically all the rest of our literature is really based upon Srimad Bhagavatam. One professor from the University of California, I think his name was David Hart, he wrote a book called A Rapid Sanskrit Method. And it was a study of the beginning of, Sanskrit grammar. And in the introduction, he said, well, why study, in the preface, why study Sanskrit? Yeah, okay. He said, because it is one of the few languages, but possibly Arabic and Chinese, that have been a carrier of culture for thousands of years. And he said, therefore, the number of books extant still available in Sanskrit language is phenomenal. Art, music, drama, law, all these things, every subject, for over 2,000 years, over 2,500 years. And beyond that, it's just over. There's some that's over. And scholars try to keep a bibliography. This book is in the Maharaj of Mysore's library. These books are at the Getty Foundation in Los Angeles, and they try to accumulate what they have and so on, indexed, and sometimes people read them. There's commentaries on them. So this is called the Catalogus Catalogorum, this book by these scholars. And it includes over 160,000 ancient Sanskrit texts. And the professor says some of them are so sophisticated that it would take a Westerner an entire lifetime to really understand what they mean in terms of mathematics or these systems like that. So I mentioned this to our friend Dr. Samaresh Bandyopadhyaya from the University of Calcutta, and he laughed. Ho, ho, ho. And he said, in Varanasi alone, which is one of the most traditional universities, they have over 100,000 uncatalogued manuscripts. They're just trying to keep them from falling apart, or proper gas and something, hoping somebody will be able to go through them. Many times there's incredible, interesting things, wonderful things. So this, and he says, out of all of these books, the greatest work of devotion, he said, in my opinion, only being equaled possibly by other books in the Sanskrit language is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that many other things were people appreciating, scholars, big scholars, neutral people, good people, appreciating the Srimad Bhagavatam is just incredible. So we have Vedas, Isopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, And Chaitanya Charitamrita is Lord Chaitanya giving us a Srimad Bhagavatam class. You know, all of his activities he's basing on Srimad Bhagavatam. He's traveling, preaching, guiding people, and he's living it. You know, he's how it says to live. He lives it that way. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, only 500 years ago, is fantastic. And then the Krishna book is the 10th canto, right? The teachings of Lord Chaitanya is a real fundamental extract from Chaitanya Charitamrita. What else do we have? The Light of the Bhagavat is one chapter. And there's Nectar of Devotion, which is an entire summary of everything from the most advanced parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita down to the simple process of Bhagavad Gita, Rupa Swami. Nectar of Devotion. Upadeshamrita, is like a summary of this. So we're going over the whole thing, and you see, yeah, it's a very systematic collection. It's all related, and how can we understand it, and so on. Then, then we kind of went through our particular, how we've tried to, actually, I think we've read all these books, basically, stuff. And you find different things. It's just unlimited. Prabhupada says that no student can take everything the spiritual master has to offer. So that's important for the student and also for the teacher to realize, there's a limit. Okay. So what happened here? We lost our, okay. Yeah. So we have to basically, Prabhupada almost saying, like, do an overview, understand the books in general, what's happening, and then find out what's important for you at your point, right? Bhagavad Gita is the ABC. If you're trying to learn, what else? Russian, you have to learn the alphabet. If you're going to read it, it's a different kind of alphabet, it's Cyrillic alphabet. Okay, Bhagavad Gita says ABC. And then Srimad Bhagavatam he describes as like a graduate level study, and Chaitanya Charitamrita as postgraduate. So we try them out. We associate with devotees. We study the books with them. Different people guide us, and we find out, okay, this is what I need, and every now and again, I should go back and read the Bhagavad Gita text and stuff, and go over these basic ideas and so on. And so for ourselves, we were describing that we have, especially in our Sankirtan work, basically 3 books out of this. Light of the Bhagavat, it's all the beautiful pictures. It was designed for a conference, symposium, seminar that Srila Prabhupada was invited to attend. It was in Japan. Doesn't say where, maybe Tokyo, I don't know. 1965 or something like that. Yeah. And Prabhupada was very enthusiastic. He had a full invitation from the organizers. It was called Cultivation of the Human Spirit. This is very, very nice. I go around, everybody likes spirits, right? You see out right now, there are places open up selling spirits, right? You can go there, beer, wine, and spirits. Okay, better than beer or wine. Yeah, the word, the idea, the concept, the basic principle, cultivation of the human spirit. So it's a very, very nice approach. You can meet a lot of people. And the Prabhupada wasn't able to go, but all the descriptions were there, especially for this very aesthetically stimulated Oriental audience, which likes beautiful descriptions from natures and flowers and poetry, so nice like that and so on. So Prabhupada wasn't able to go, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj and the Hong Kong BBT went ahead and found artists and everything else and produced the book. And I found out just before Tamal Krishna Maharaj left his body with Cambridge University, he was trying to organize a symposium, and they were very enthusiastic about it with the art and the different topics and so on. So we've been using that. It's like, well, everybody has their own particular relationship with the Bhagavatam, with preaching. And so myself, I like this. It's the right kind of audience. It's kind of people who are not tied into a gross scientific view of life. Everything is made of matter. We are all atoms, atoms and molecules. Okay. Atoms and molecules. Yeah. Okay. And also too, it goes beyond like a very, very strict Christian perspective, which many times doesn't get to any cosmology at all. It's pretty much many times just a morality and ethical position. But Oriental philosophy generally tends to talk about some kind of transcendence with great conviction, you know, and it's not material. It's something mysterious, you know, like that. There's a mystery to it and a beauty and stuff and so on. Okay, so certain kind of people were more inclined to deal with them, to preach with them. Yeah. Um, and okay, then after that, you introduce. We have symposiums, seminars. It's been quite effective, quite effective. Then right in there it says, okay, if you're interested in learning more about the Lord of Vrindavan and all these things we're just introducing here, then you can consult the works of the six Goswamis, who are direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya, and they left many books for us. And by the way, one of those books is happen to have a copy right here. Yeah. Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami, by Nectar of Instruction. Yeah. So this is a summary of everything he was understood in just 11 verses. It's so nice. Of course, we have a nice commentary on it. So it's a very nice progression. This actually happened one time. We did a science program. I think it was like on Wednesday or something at a university. And then one lady, she was a lawyer, like 25 or something, I think single, you know, in Chile. So then she liked it. That's nice. What you're presenting is like not just fanaticism or anything. So then she came into the Light of the Bhagavat program, which we had in the cultural center. I remember it now in a park. It was a very nice building. Okay. Then she came for Nectar of Instruction program. Yeah. And then we have a nice summary because here it is. Here's all of our philosophy in just 11 verses. And actually, the first few are actually part of the Yoga Sutras and everything else. They're very general, you know, control your tongue, everything else. In the Bible, it says, if you meet a man who has controlled his tongue, you have met a perfected man. When controlling our speaking, controlling our tasting, and yeah, in a very good position. So Nectar of Light of the Bhagavat, okay. Then Nectar of Instruction, okay. This is a nice summary. Then finally, we've been using Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because the Light of the Bhagavatam is from 5,000 years ago. It was supposedly composed 5,000 years ago, and it's talking about stuff that happened 50,000 years ago, 500,000 years ago, and I guess maybe even 5 million years ago. I don't think that. So yeah, you know, it's talking about, you know, giant red pigs with a club, you know, and 25-mile long witches and all, you know, this stuff, which is just really, you know, it's too much of a jump for most people. But Teachings of Lord Chaitanya is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada was not planning on translating it and publishing it. You know, he got sucked into that. So he did this and he thought it was sufficient. And so for modern intellectual people, we're dealing with, that's our idea here, deal with these people and stuff, you know, our Jungian guy, you know, yeah, it's just, okay, you know. So here is, you know, a summary of the whole Bhagavatam and everything else. I mentioned the story that I knew one devotee quite some time ago, a long time ago. Prabhupada was on the planet, everything else. And ISKCON was just starting to develop in India and everything else. And of course, there's a lot of criticism about these, you know, hippies and Western sannyasis and so many things. And what do they know? So he said he was talking to one Gaudiya sannyasi, and the guy was civil and stuff, but he was critical. He said, you know, you all are becoming sannyasis and everything else, and Brahmins, and you don't even know, you know, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he said, well, no, Prabhupada published a book, you know, on teachings of Lord Chaitanya from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He took out certain things. Well, what's in there? Well, the instructions to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, Ramananda Roy. Who else we got? Huh? Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So as Gaudiya Math, so Sannyasi said, that's enough. And it is. If you read it, it's not like, oh, I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't need to read this. No, it's just Prabhupada taking a different view of it. It's so stimulating. So I do now, as I read that every morning, if I'm a good boy and get up early enough, and I read that, and I just tweet on the tweet my little comments, and then people can follow along with us, and maybe then take up some more discussion like that. So we have the whole Bhaktivedanta library: Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the other books which come out of that, Krishna books, so many things. Then out of that, we have taken these books, the Prabhupada's books, as a very nice basis. Not the only thing we use, but it's like a nice basis. Yeah. And then we were going to do something else, but then Sharanga Thakur caught us and said, you're going to talk about Ramachandra on last Friday, right? It's Ram Lila. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So simultaneously, there was a horse sacrifice going on over there. That's all about Lord Sringadev. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so we're discussing because, yeah, that's the whole point. Whatever topic somebody wants to talk about, intellectually, socially, philosophically, culturally, Hansaduta told us, the Prabhupada said, every single psychological circumstance that you can encounter is in Srimad Bhagavatam. The pregnancy of Diti in the evening, What else we got? The Daksha Yagna, the marriage of Sukanya and Chaivana Muni. It's just like all these different kinds of psychological circumstances. Of course, many people are not, maybe that, well, many people, most people are on the level where Prabhupada says they have to understand the importance of vegetarianism and reincarnation, which are tied together very much. If you understand reincarnation, then you're very hesitant to start messing around with animals and vegetables and stuff, just as if there's just no reaction. Yeah. So these are the basic things. So many people, the basic idea is Bhagavad Gita and how to put that in terms of modern stories. Do you know the story of the scholar and the boatman? The scholar and the boatman. Boatman. Your life is 50% wasted. Once there was a very erudite scholar, doing so many things, and he went down to the river, and he was going to cross the river and go to the other side. And the boatman said, well, it's getting a little bit tough here, but maybe you might want to wait till tomorrow. I said, I can't wait till tomorrow. I have to get home. I have much work to do. We said, all right. So they started going across. And the boatman's scholar said, do you know what that kind of fish that is? And he said, well, no, it's a so-and-so, so-and-so. He said, you don't know ichthyology? Ichthyology? Ichthyology is the study of fish. Yeah. And the guy said, well, no, they come by here and I know some people catch them and that's about it. He said, oh, your life is, 30% wasted. Okay. And then he says, and do you know what kind of clouds those are that are coming like up there? He said, well, no, I know they're pretty thick and look like the storm is coming. Well, those are columnus clouds. Those are serious clouds, You don't know the science of meteorology? Well, no, I just know the clouds and how they affect the river, and it's getting a little tough here. He said, oh, your life is 60% wasted, 60, 65, 70% wasted. Then it started getting rougher and rougher, and finally they couldn't stay in the boat, and they got tossed into the water, and the boatman said, do you know how to swim? And the guy said, no. He said, oh, your life is 100% wasted. Yeah. So I thought this is Mullah Nasruddin. There's this like mythical character, probably has some basis, Mullah Nasruddin. And the scholar and the boatman is another one too, which Prabhupada uses, which are both coming from him. These kind of tales. So many times that's the process of just taking the basic ideas for Bhagavad Gita, and probably wanted to do street dramas, and books are the basis. You find many stories in there, things about and stuff, and you illustrate them, and people remember them. They remember them at some critical moment. Was it what the devotee? Had his name, big German devotee. Heavy guy, GBC, had problems, has hepatitis C. Prithu Das, he tells a story. He came from a higher class family and stuff, So anyway, he said one story that his father and one of their friends were going to some opera or program in Germany before the start of World War II and everything else. And he said, the younger men, then he came out, and one person was there, just a beggar, and his friend told him, I wouldn't give you any money. You should get a job and take care of yourself. I wouldn't give you anything. I wouldn't give you a piece of bread if I had it. Walked on. And so they went on, the war came, and somehow or other, they got involved. They were Germans, but somehow or other, they ended up in a concentration camp, the two of them. And they went there years under forced labor and everything else. And finally, the Americans were coming and liberating all these people. And his friend, I guess, got typhus or something, typhoid, something like that. Anyway, was just so exhausted, almost on the verge of death. The Americans came through, and one medic was running around trying to help people. And he was trying to help his father in this and stuff. And he said, if I had one piece of bread, I could save his life. Nobody has any food. And as the picture said, his friend said, remember that beggar? Remember the beggar who I told I wouldn't give a single piece of bread? Yeah. So it's amazing. There's so many things people are talking about, they're just superficial, but sometimes the things hit you. And this is like, something, yeah, I never thought of before, or I thought of that, and this is how it is. Yeah. So, in many stories, yeah. So anyway, many times, knowing the books, the ideas, and of course, all of our books are based upon Bhagavad Gita and everything else. If you're studying Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, you're studying it the way Lord Chaitanya uses it in basically the modern world. So you look up the verses, and then you know the basic verses. And you see after that all the purports, how many times does Prabhupada quote Bhagavad Gita in his purports, and how many verses are simply just more details and perspectives on those basic verses. So you begin to learn them from your perspective. I have a hard time preaching in India sometimes, regular classes, because people don't understand all this technological stuff that I use and stuff. It just like that. And somebody else will get up and talk about cow dung and stuff. Yeah, we understand him. Yeah, yeah. So finding your environment. In Atul Krishna said in Bangladesh, they expect you to give a four hour lecture and have lunch, and give another 4 hour lecture after lunch, and they're just supposed to sit there and listen and actually acquire knowledge. You try that in the Silicon Valley. Try and give a presentation where it's got to be interactive. People have to get up and play games and do stuff. It's like it is whole different educational environments and so on. Prabhupada said, when we come in contact with the super soul, then you can understand, how to relate to different people and be in touch with them and so on. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, many times, I remember when I was a brahmachari in the temple in Berkeley, we were close to the campus, and several times, very, very good-looking young, co-eds from the campus would come up there and stuff and start talking. And the super soul told me just going to give them a basic introduction and introduce them to some Mataji. They can preach to them. This is not proper preaching platform for me. Yeah. So it's okay. We learned the books. So you find it for preaching. And so Ram Navami, we were talking about different aspects of it, and there's chapters in 2 chapters in the wedding. So I did the prayers by Hanuman, which people don't usually touch on, and so on. It's an unlimited universe, so many books and literature and everything else. Hare Krishna, this is actually Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet, sweet the sound. You got to be American. It saved a wretch like me. Unless you're Chinese or Japanese, you come in contact with Christian missionaries. It's maybe the most famous song in the history of the world. It's pretty good. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Very nice. And it tells about how this grace of God, amazing grace, Srila Prabhupada, right? Divine grace, saved a wretch like me. You look it up on the internet, it'll be unlimited. Then it says that, okay, the great grace has taken me out of these problems and set me free. And that will also take me on to the higher and higher aspects of the spiritual reality, so on. So yeah, this is the point, that we study these books and everything else, for the point of liberation, but after that also for becoming purified. And there's so many levels, so many subtle things you'll go through, which are being described like that. You don't even realize, that you're in Maya. It's so subtle. I'm a devotee, actually. Yeah. Then after that, there's Mahavishnu Loka, Vaikuntha, Lila avatars. What else we got? Mathura, Dwarka, Vrindavan, and in Vrindavan, you got cowherd boys. Ramanand Roy describing this and stuff. So you begin to understand your situation. You can begin to understand what you're dealing with. But in many cases, it's a matter of just taking the ABCs, for many people like that. But it's not always the case. Prabhupada says in the battlefield, the doctor may see somebody and he realizes, okay, if I stay with this guy for 3 hours, I can stabilize him. I can stay with this guy for 3 hours, I can keep him alive, but he's going to die within about 3 hours. Okay. Looks over there's another guy. If I stay with him, for 3 hours, I can stabilize him and they can get him back and he'll live. But he'll be able to get back into the fight after a few months. There's another guy who says, okay, I can patch this guy up within 3 minutes and he'll be right back into the fight. Papa said, it's unfortunate, but you help this guy first. And so in our preaching, it's the same way. If you find somebody, I was coming back in the BART. Anybody know the BART? Bay Area Rapid Transit System. It's out in San Francisco. It's a good system. So coming back from San Francisco, I met this one guy dressed like this. He said, "You a monk?" "Yeah, monk." You know. She started talking, and everything he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I've always thought so. Yeah, yeah." So basically, our philosophical things, he was just going on and up, and he wanted to come to the temple in Berkeley. We walked in there, and I was introducing Prabhupada. And he was all the way up to the point of, taking books. He bought maybe like 10, 15 books to go out and sell them like that and so on. It was a good day. Every day, if you could make a book distributor, make 5 book distributors every day. It's like, what is that? 5 times 300? That's 1,500 book distributors going on. If they're making more, then the U.S. Congress will become aware of us or something, criticizing us. Yeah. Yeah. So this is it, knowing the philosophy, knowing the people. And we had a Ram Navami festival. We did an entire Anjana Sudha Academy calendar. We started making up PowerPoint shows for all these festivals and stuff. And he came back the following year, and it was like, oh, there it is. So on. So it's books, not for everybody. Prabhupada said that books are really for pundits, for scholars. He said common people, they just come, they listen, they understand, like that. And then they do nice, they work hard with the land and the animals, have a nice supper, and go back home, back to God without having to read all these books. Prabhupada says, really, they're an ass's burden. All these books are just a big burden for an ass. You find so many book distributors whose left shoulders are, whatever it is, they walk with like a kind of twisted posture. Of course, you find software engineers who also have twisted posture. They're like this. Like this. And cowboys are like riding horses. Yeah. Okay. Choose your poison. Yeah. Okay. So today we got up to today finally. This is almost like our last presentation that we wanted to make in life. And this was that, you have your collection of books. There's a very nice picture of Prabhupada sitting with the books next to him. I think it was a New Vrindavan with a velvet curtain behind him, his bead bag. And you can actually see what they are. It was maybe like after, a few years after Prabhupada was preaching, you can see that it is, it's like Bhagavad Gita, Isopanishad, you can recognize them, Nectar of Devotion, the Krishna books, 2 volumes, and you can recognize the first and second cantos, books, and one more, which goes into the story of Uddhava. And looking at that's fine for me. That's such a nice library, there. Many people have all the books and haven't read them. You go to houses many times, the full set of Srimad Bhagavatams. You look at them, the tab hasn't been taken out, or even the plastic hasn't been taken off. But yeah, it's good. It's good. They'll be there. When a nuclear war comes or the solar flares and we all get reduced down to individual nations again and have to start using horses for energy. And a few people are, kind of maintaining some global communication. And we'll be very happy that the books are already all over the place in different languages and so on. And 5,000 years from now, people will say, who did this? How did they get them? How did they appear all over the world? There must have been something unusual. So it's we're in the long game here also. So, okay, but if you're actually doing scholarly work and preaching like that and so on, there's so many books, become relevant. Satsvarup Maharaj wrote a whole introduction to Krishna consciousness, little book. I forgot it was. There was something, the title, but it was basically a textbook introducing Krishna consciousness. And he was quoting general authorities, from the Vedic standards and stuff, from Indian culture, atheists, And Prabhupada said, you have quoted from so many other sources, even undesirable people, but you have done it nicely and your book has not become contaminated like that. So it's to be able to go out and reach people in different atmospheres intellectually. So today we're just going to present our background. I was at the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies. You know this place at all? No? You've heard of Oxford? Yeah, that's where the oxen ford the river. Yeah, Oxford, pretty famous university. Yeah. So there's different centers that are, centers for someone that are affiliated with the university. They get formal affiliation. This is actually a pretty good way to start with your educational institution. The Graduate Theological Union, which is maybe like 5 or 6 different churches, they have a graduate studies together. They maintain a library and stuff. It's convenient. They're right across the road from the University of California. They take up 1 block, and they have a reciprocal PhD program. that students who take courses in both universities are accepted. Those courses are accredited, and if you graduate from there, your PhD is accepted as a University of California diploma. And so it's a nice way to be accredited by a big university. When you get big enough and stuff, and you can just stand on your own 2 feet. So anyway, different organizations like Shamaka Rishi was the person who started it. He started a lot of stuff. He's a very, very clever politician. In a good sense, Irish. So he was talking about they applied the Oxford Center for it started off as the Oxford Center, I think, for Vaishnava study, Indian study, no, for Indian philosophy or something, but nobody was supporting it. The GBC approved of it, but it wasn't giving any support. So then he changed it over to the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies because the Hindus were supporting it. One thing he did was an oral history of Indians in England. He would go around interviewing people, older people and stuff, and how it had happened in their lives and how they'd been there and things like that and so on. Then he archived it very nicely. And so then many Indians were coming and then, giving nice donations. Once a year, you'd have a fundraising dinner, for people, and many big Indian industrialists would come. And he had to pick out a joke for his inaugural speech. So Radhika said one of his joke was that it was a class in an English school, English primary school in England there. And the teacher asked, who was the most famous person in the world? And what's his name? Little Muhammad said, the Prophet Muhammad. And she said, well, he's a very famous man, Muhammad, but he's not the most famous man. And some other kid, I don't know who else, a Jewish kid, suggested that, Moses or something. He said, no, he's not the most famous. And little Rajiv Sharma said, teacher, I know. I said, who's that? It's Lord Jesus Christ, teacher. He said, oh, you're correct. Here's the $10 prize. And he was folding it up. And she said, well, I was surprised you didn't say Lord Krishna. She said, well, actually, teacher, yes, Lord Krishna is much more important than Jesus Christ, but business is business. So these are all business guys, okay, here's a donation. So, yeah. So anyway, he's very, very, very clever person, very nice in many ways, but he started that. He started other stuff too. So they applied for affiliation. They had a library. They needed a library, right? We're talking about libraries. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj donated his whole library. And Radhika said it's one of the best libraries he's seen on Vaishnava culture, Vedic perspective, and even general philosophical principles and so on like that. So they got many times what happens, somebody will donate an entire beautiful library. Okay, what do you do when you die with your library? Because scholars collect a lot of books. Yeah. And they use them, finding different things like that and so on. And students were basically, Oxford is organized on colleges. I don't know what the names of them are, something like Trinity College and different things like that. And each one is an independent college with its own system. There's one where you don't have to do anything. You haven't got to publish anything else. If you're elected in there, you have a place to stay, you have food for your whole life, and that's it. I forgot the name of it. Usually they do publish stuff and everything else, but the other ones you had to be a celibate scholar your whole life. So you go there and your curriculum, I think, is connected with different colleges, and somehow or other you get a diploma. So they were affiliated with some of the places, and devotees were coming there to study, right? So they were arranging some, accommodations where people could live together and stuff in jolly old England, which is really miserable weather. And then they would program in their center, morning program, kirtan. Then they would help them with the actual thing of getting enrolled and handling their academic studies and this kind of stuff. And they started turning out very successful devotees and scholars, and the Oxford people were impressed. You're bringing good people and you're training them well, and they're doing well within the academic area. They're not just all religious people, fanatics. Yeah. So then they applied to be accepted as as a center, affiliated with Oxford. And I think it took them 2 years, They applied in the 1 year, then the second year they got a letter back saying, yes, we accept you as an affiliate of ours, so and so. And this is the standard we understand you're keeping, you have to keep it, and so on. The Jewish Center applied something like about 20 years ago. And after 15 years, they got a letter back saying, we're considering it. So on. So a little slower. Yeah, a little slower. I think they finally got affiliated. It's a whole political relationship. So it's going on there. There's an example of a library. And for this kind of work, you have to have a library. It's useful. But again, different people. If you're a grihasta, it's easy to accumulate a library, stay one place. If you're a sannyasi, you're traveling, it's other things. Before the Vedabase.io, there were attempts to make the books available for everybody. You know what those were at all? Anybody remember those?
It was Vedabase.net.
Huh?
It was Vedabase.net.
Yeah, but before that, way back when you were a little child. Huh?
A local copy that people install on the PC from database.
When Fortran, before there was Fortran even, when IBM 360
was called, it was called Bhaktivedanta database folio something?
Nope, before that.
No. Okay.
Before that, there was a microfiche collection you could buy and a little pocket reader. And that was brutal. The cards were about like this big, if you can still see my picture there or not, like that, And on those, okay, here was all these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, all these pages of something, and it was brutal because you had to travel with, you had a little reader you could put it in. You're reading, you see this microfiche, right? Tiny things, okay. Then I saw the Oxford Encyclopedia, what's it? Oxford English Dictionary, and they were about this big, right? And it was maybe in like maybe 9-point type, and it was the whole thing was there, and they had to give you a magnifying glass to read it with, and so on, which is not so bad for a dictionary because a dictionary you're not going to be reading like 200 pages a day or something. And so it was good. I need to carry it with you, whatever. So anyway, I told Hansa Duda, wow, we should do the Bhagavatam like this. And he said, yeah. So, and 1 year later, we had remember the one volume Bhagavatams? Yeah, those were nice. Those were nice. You had a reader, which actually, if you had good eyes, you didn't even actually have to read it and stuff. And it was all in one place and so on, yeah. But very quickly, then electronic stuff came in. And so it was sort of factored out like that and so on. The idea of a library as a physical location of books is obsolete. It's obsolete. Librarians, they keep a certain number of physical books there and stuff. There's a whole thing about reading them and everything else, and people like them and so forth, so on. Interlibrary loan services are very powerful. Somebody may not have Gopala Champu or something, but yeah, then the United States gives extreme postal discount for books between library to library, very big discount. So they have very solid containers. They put it in. They put the thing in there. They have a record system. They talk all it up. You want to know about Manipur? You check on this. There's 6 different libraries in America that have something about Manipur, and they all show up, and you can learn about them. So on. So using the American postal system, and the other thing is, of course, online materials. In every library you go to now, they have if you're good, they have nice substantial section, and the librarians and stuff can help you and use databases like that. How many people know what is WorldCat?
Catalog.
It's a catalog, WorldCat. It's a children's cartoon. It's a catalog. Yeah. I think it's one of the most extensive. Yeah, most extensive like that. And again, it's just where are these books, how to get them, how to find them, and so on. Yeah. Prabhupada said you should go to the Madhvacharya, his line, you should go to Ramanujacharya, their line, Sri Vaishnava, and you should take photos of all their materials and use that for our library. Devotees started the project, but it didn't it didn't take off, Yeah. Books are for scholars and stuff, and how many people are interested and what can we do and stuff. And Prabhupada was encouraging it, But these depend upon so many common people supporting it. They depend upon support from the government. They depend upon support from the merchants. They depend upon support from the people. So it's very, very important, people who can popularize these things, and then people appreciate that these are producing people who tell us these wonderful stories. The Lion King is based upon Shakespeare's Hamlet. Forbidden Planet, one of the biggest first science fiction movies, very good, is based upon The Tempest. You find so many things that the stories are coming from, the basic stories like that, and so on. And then they tell the actual stories again. I forgot what it was. It was the Iliad and the Odyssey. What it was. It was Achilles versus Hector, whatever that was. And then they used modern actors. They adjusted a little bit, but yeah, they did it well. So it was, yeah, that's why they're called classics. You know, classics are a thing that only scholars are interested in. No, a classic is something that has a deep scholastical value, but also this attracts people to story again and again, again and again. I mean, how many times have people watched Romeo and Julio, Juliet and Romeo, and probably, or Sun Wukong, yeah, Sun Wukong, Journey to the West, Monkey and Piggy. I'm mispronouncing it, right? Sun Wukong, yeah, and Budgie, yeah. Yeah, you look up Journey to the West on the internet, and you'll just be drowning in stuff because that's how people like. Who are we? Who are we? Yeah, we're coming from this story, and so it's good. It's very deep, very nice. Yeah. So then we have today here. We come into this. When we go, I tried preaching in different areas, the academic areas, which you do. You go out and preach in sell books on the street. You go certain places. There are certain places in Houston where you can do book distribution in public. Okay. So in academic environments, you start finding certain people, certain groups that work for you. And I tried Vastu in architecture, and I can give a lecture on that. I know one book, which is very good. I don't have all of them here. I should make a bibliography. Marcus Schmeike, Vastu and Feng Shui. No, Vastu and the origins of Feng Shui. That takes 2 pages, and after that, the entire book is just about Vastu. It's a trick to get you in there. It's a very good book on Vastu by a devotee, introduction. Very nice, very practical. And so yeah, I found some other very classical book, D.N. Shukla's 2 volumes on Vastu, which are very rare, and I was able to get those and look at them, and everybody else was quoting them. And then we did very impressive lectures. People in universities, the deans and everybody else will come and say, very nice, can you give more? Well, no, I can't, because I realized I had to learn the subject in more depth, Well, what can I do? Well, psychology, I'm trained in that. I like that, So then we ended up going back to Carl Jung. How many people know Carl Jung? How many people know Carl Jung from my lectures? Okay. He was contemporary of Sigmund Freud. Probably said of all the Western scholars, he had the most sense. And you look at his works. He was born, like it was 2 years after Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. So his whole life and academic development and everything else are very parallel. It's a very, very incredible aspect like that. So there are many, many nice books by him. Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. This is biography. It was done with Anna Jaffray when he was old. He refused to let them publish it until after he was dead, because he really talked about what he understood and how life was and everything else. And we agree with him completely. He was having incredible experiences. We look at them, we can identify what he was experiencing. And he wasn't like psychotic, and he wasn't just making this up. So the biography is very nice. Then there's a thing called the Tavistock Lectures, which he gave at the Tavistock Foundation in London, which is still there. They host very good academic meetings. And he takes them for maybe about 1 week, maybe like 5 days. He talks about, some case studies to show his ideas of the basic principles of psychology. And again, if I didn't have some psychological background, a bachelor's degree, it would have been difficult, But yeah, even starting off with this one and stuff, you can make it learn psychology. Other devotees I know, devotees who are getting into it and stuff, they all say, yeah, it's very, very an area where we can relate to it. We can talk to those people. And it's a very active community, very intelligent, very prosperous community. But it's not so big because it's not that many people can really appreciate what's going on. But they themselves then guide other people who don't know what they're talking about, but they guide them and stuff and how they're dealing with things and so on. Some of the people we were working with, one lady, she was one of the directors of the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. All these kind of people, very prominent people. And so the Tavistock Lectures, very nice. Then all this stuff is going on. And one of the central people is Shonu Shandashini. He was an Indian guy, I think a Sindhi, trying to find some higher idea, couldn't find anything, looking for a guru, an Indian guy. He ended up with Carl Jung. And I think then he, of course, Jung had gone on, but then he started going through and just researching all the materials, and he started organizing the publication. Because there are many of Jung's works which were not published, very, very simple, powerful things, and it's still going on. So the Red Book was one of those. Jung was actually doing pictures and drawings of what he was experiencing in his trances and description of the whole iconographic subtle world, keeping him from going crazy. But his ancestors did not want to let it out because they thought people think he was psychotic, you know. So finally, Shoner Shamdash and everybody else convinced him, okay, you gotta let him out. And so maybe like about 15 years ago, it was finally published, about 100 years. And they pulled it out of the vault in the bank, and the Minister of Education was there. All these people, it was like opening King Tut's tomb, literally, after 100 years and so on, the Red Book. And they brought one of the best photographic companies from Hollywood to go and photograph them and take, produce reproductions. And the guy said the colors had faded a little bit, but he used very, very good inks. And he said we corrected that with no problem. But he said the paper was just about to go and stuff. And maybe this another 10 years and the paper would have been falling apart and stuff. So they got him. And that was another gigantic revolution of what Jung was actually, in the most esoteric sense, talking about. So this is just the text without the pictures and so on. It's a lot cheaper. Yeah. So there's a whole library. One more book is very, very essential. Jung has a Kundalini lectures and so on. So we were, this is the thing, we have our own library, for our own studies and to talk with people, have classes and so on. We're dealing with the Jungian society here, and stuff. And some of the stuff I've read, he hasn't even read in the matter like that. I can now deal with it. The topmost psychologists in the world. I've seen that. I can hold my own with any psychologist in the world. So many things I don't know, but they don't know also. And he said, when Jung is like, yeah, he's acceptable and he's coming back, and what do you know? And yeah, I read this. Oh, I haven't read that. Is it? Yeah, it's good. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got 10 minutes, 15 minutes for your Swami. Hour and a half later, we both agree we got to stop talking and stuff. There's so many wonderful things we're doing. Can you come back and give a class to our? We have one semester here. Part of our diploma, we have one semester on geriatric, counseling. Can you come back and give 5 classes for us from your perspective? Yeah, and all very nice people. So Carl Jung has been very nice. We have a whole library written up. A lot of the stuff's available online. We read it online and so on. But it's nice, nice having the books. I did like that. It's a different thing reading them like that and so on. So any questions about this? This is the Bhaktivedanta library. Books related to, based upon Prabhupada's books and stuff. Yeah, connecting them. Ultimately, everything, can be connected. This book is good for burning. You can use it to start fires with. It's complete trash. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Does Jung have an understanding about the 3 modes of nature?
See, again, I haven't been dealing with this so long like that.
Because he does at my workplace when we do figure out our nature, there's a survey, the answer and stuff, it tells you what you're a teacher, you're an administrator, so some sort of varnashram idea based on the natures.
His background now we're talking about. This is why I want to talk with the Jungian who knows the thing thoroughly. We haven't been able to make that bridge yet. Because I know what to. He was more motivated in Indian philosophy contact with Buddhism in many ways. And his resources in terms of Indian philosophy, Vaishnava philosophy, they were limited. He was trying to find things like that. You met him, he was a very good scholar, So I know he's, oh my God, it's terrible. I'm sure he was quite familiar with the modes of material nature and the stuff, the gunas, even the Sanskrit terminology for it. But sometimes in how he was dealing with it and that kind of stuff, But he was also very conscious of the time factor, and which is the 3 modes of nature, and how it's like it, we're being separated from reality. And it allows us to deal with reality, but in certain ways. And so if we have a time factor, which is based upon Newtonian view of time, one point he almost died, had a whole out-of-body experience. He was there with a heart recovering. And he would go into these trances where he would just see everything. And he just realized we're always caught in little boxes, our thinking process. And he would experience this holographic stuff and so on. And he was seeing people's, subtle body, their karma and stuff. You know? Many times he saw that. And so his doctor came to him. He said, "How are you, Carl, today?" And treating him and stuff. And he said he could see the guy's, you know, subtle body. And he realized that this means that subtle body is not that attached to the gross body. And he warned him. He said, "You're going to die soon. Be careful." The guy died 3 weeks later. Yeah. So the time factor and everything else, but specifically the way we're dealing with it and going down into social, he was aware of Maslow's thing about anamoya, pranamoya, manomoya, Gyanamoya, and Vijnanamoya. And that levels, he was aware of that and so on. Yeah. It's a big topic. Okay. But these are some of the books, and we have a bibliography, which we did for the Ministry of Education at one point. You know, and that's it. You have to, you know, read certain books, and you know the people. You can talk with them. You can communicate with them. You can connect up, and then you're connecting up entire universes like that. And suddenly an entire community, you know, can be connected up. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya. And Holy Prabhupada said a sannyasi should travel to certain places, preach to the leaders, and then convince them of the philosophy and let them, you know, introduce it like that and so on. Different people doing this. Other thing was E.T. Hall. We got 3 people here. Yeah. E.T. Hall. It's easy to remember. Extraterrestrial Hall. No, he wasn't Extraterrestrial Hall. He was Edward Thomas Hall. He was born in New Mexico, the land of enchantment, or some people say the land of ghosts. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. He grew up there somehow or other, a Western guy. So from the very beginning, I think he was involved with the Hopi or the Navajo, and they maintain their culture down to the present time. There's a limited number of people who can speak the language, like maybe like 5,000 people or something, really, whatever. Yeah. But they have dances and so many things. They have a different way of looking at people. Jung came in contact with them. He was talking to Mountain Lake. He came to America. He wanted to know if Black people had the same dreams as white people, like that, in terms of these archetypal images. Somebody got him in touch with Mountain Lake, the shaman. They were talking for a long time about their views of life and everything, and it was very illuminating. And he asked this question. He said, "Why is it that you people think that all Europeans and, you know, these kind of people are crazy?" And he said, because Mountain Lake said, because they say they have thoughts in their head. And Jung said, well, of course you have thoughts in your head. Where else do you have hearts, you know, thoughts? And Mountain Lake said, only a madman has thoughts in his head. A sane man has thoughts in his heart. And Jung said he was just so shocked because he could appreciate what the guy was talking about, the difference. He said he couldn't talk. He was just like this is how all the other people in the world view white people. We're just all nuts. And Mountain Lake understood he was going through this stuff, changes in his heart. And, you know, yeah, that's just one example of how you being able to relate to different cultures. So E.T. Hall is kind of like a modern guy. And he especially is dealing in the area of teaching for the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, everything else. And no civil things, State Department, languages. So he has a series of books on, what is it here? What is there's okay, the silent language, you know, see they're in reprint, the hidden dimension and beyond culture, you know. And what he's dealing with is cross-cultural perception of time and space. Yeah, this is very nice because then you can go between the psychological and mental level and the gross physical level, right? And scientists, they deal with the gross physical level, but sound and space and these kind of things are an area where they accept the stuff and you can show them how it's connected up in terms of mind, culture, and perception. And different cultures perceive different worlds and they can live in those worlds, right? They can walk on a 6-inch wide metal girder, 12 feet off of the deck of a 75-story building going up and without a safety belt. And for them, it doesn't matter the slightest bit. They sit down with their feet hanging down with their friends on the girder, 12 stories off the thing, having lunch, talking about stuff, hitting each other. It's just no, because they live in a tactile world. And they use their eyes. They use our eyes to grab onto somebody's face like that, which I'm doing right now, and I'm feeling your face in my eyes and stuff. Yeah, yeah. They just, yeah. So he's very, very nice. Even talking around, I haven't found anybody better. The thing is, if you wanted to go into this, you can go to the universities here, talk to the psychology department, and they'll have a graduate upper division course on perception. You know, you need to talk to the professor and see what's going on, and maybe need just the books or something, or even pay and take the course and so on. You know, but if courses on perception and stuff, you get the course, whatever. You just know the modern thinking. But but as far as I know, he still is considered like a very serious person. The final one is Marshall McLuhan. What's his name here? Marshall Herbert McLuhan, Canadian, and he was back in the '60s, about the same time. And he was showing this whole thing that our whole culture is very much based upon, linear thinking and all this kind of stuff, you know. But he was showing iconographic thinking. And he wrote a whole book about it, talking about media, one thing called The Electric Bride. And it showed that in terms of the media, like electricity, machines, and everything else, the view of women was just changing what a woman was supposed to be. A woman was supposed to be in the house and, doing all this kind of stuff, Then when mechanical came in, then the woman was supposed to be able to be move around. And the electronic was something else. And when transistors came in, a woman was supposed to be, out and going and moving around and stuff. It just showed how the media just changed our idea of our social and culture. Black culture is very, very much dependent upon color perception. And when black and white television was there, it wasn't very good. Nothing was going on. When color television came in, they could express themselves, right? And he said that's when all the civil rights, everything started with the beginning of color television, because now yeah. So he did a whole very, very serious study of media, which is he predicted the internet and everything else, what's happening and how it's dealing with things. So instead of talking about it in a linear fashion with Quentin Fiore, one of the best book designers in the world, he then, made a whole book. Every page there's a picture of the next page, like a postage stamp up here. Yeah, here this is the previous page of the next page. Every page it's like they're showing you how you can use the book in a different fashion, and you can just communicate icons and everything else like that and so on. So Carl Jung, E.T. Hall, and then Marshall McLuhan and so on. Yeah, and he had other books too. We have a whole kind of list, and using them, I give these to a lot of people. I can buy them. I've used book places like that and stuff, and it is for them. It's like, wow, I never thought about it. This is a book. Maharaj, it was just a whole experience for me looking at these things and so on. Yeah. So, any final questions and comments? What books do you have? Everybody, next week everybody can talk about their books or something. Yeah. You have gardening books. How many? 5? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you can relate to people, what they're doing and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering, what do you think about Martin Heidegger?
Heidegger, I mean, as far as I know him, I don't know that much, but as far as I've seen, he's a pretty good guy. He seems to be honest like that and stuff. And he's presenting like the basic philosophy and the idea, and he's getting an idea across pretty much. And you see, he was the guru. I mean, I would probably Carl Jung and everybody else were very much was Carl Jung in The Making of Modern Psychology, The Dream of a Science. God, that's one of the best books on earth. It shows, looking at from a psychological and perspective that goes through history from Jung's time and how it developed in the West with all these people. It doesn't look at the history of war or money or anything else. It's just an incredible look at how Western thought developed. And it wasn't just Jung. There were a lot of people, Genet and everybody else were going back and forth. And in most cases, they weren't competitive. Most cases, they were really like encouraging each other and trying to fight out and develop ideas and everything else and so on. So Heidegger was very much, I think, one of the fundamental people. And another one is Immanuel Kant. But Kant is very obscure. Nietzsche. Yeah. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, St. Thomas Aquinas. Then it comes down, I forgot who, to Kant, Nietzsche, and Jung. You can see definitely it's, the ideas are coming through sources and stuff. Yeah. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Mihika has a question.
Okay. What is your question, Mataji?
Mihika, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna Maharaji, thank you very much for the class. Maharaji, my question is that can you please briefly explain the 5 moyas that you described?
5 what? The five what?
The five moas. The five moyas.
Oh yeah. All over the place. What's the name? Maslow and other people. They come up with basically the same things. It's mentioned in the if you look Vedabase.io and prayers, but a personified Vedas. It's mentioned there, and it's taken, I think, from Madhvacharya's comments, and I think it's also broader than that. And also, they're called bodies and stuff. Anna means food. This is like the little baby or a bacteria or something where everything is just eating. You know, the world is only designed for my survival, my nutritional, survival. So in human beings and the baby at that level, that's it. Basically the whole world is in that level. They are the world. They don't separate their identification from the world. And how the world is their happiness and distress, Anamaya. Then about 2 years old, a human being, of course, animals go through this different degrees. Pranamaya, that's where the life airs, the prana in the body starts to become real. And at that point, you realize I'm not the world. I am this body. So yeah, it's a step up. It's a step up. I am this body. So at that point, if you try and cut some little child's hair, it's World War III, because is that me or not me? They have to see their fecal matter going down the toilet to understand, is that me? Is that not me? So there are many things that go on in terms of separating your body identification from your clothes and your toys from other people's toys. And it's a whole thing of actually beginning to identify yourself as being a body, an individual body. And animals usually go through this. And after Anamaya, Pranamaya is Manomaya, the mind, the mental activities. I am French, I am German, I am English, I'm Portuguese, I'm Chileno, I'm Argentinian, I'm Pakistani, I'm Hindu. Very much in terms of your mental, development of social life, civilization. And it goes on with the mind, which we talk about, thinking, feeling, and willing. Then some people, many people are stuck on different levels. Animals, to some degree, they can develop a cultural identification, wolves and different things like that, and social standards, which identify them from other groups of wolves and stuff. They have primitive rudimentary, what do you call it, civilization, and passing on traditions to different cultures like that. It's there. Then you go to Jnanamaya. That's afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, Jnanamaya. And then Vijnanamaya is the actual one, but the actual study public talks about Jnanamaya. And Jnanamaya is like Socrates, Confucius, where you begin to see universal principles and different people and stuff, and basically like Brahman realization. Then Vijnanamaya is where you're actually beginning to realize the absolute truth of the person. And when you actually realize it's a person, then it's Anandamaya. So Anamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya, like that. Yeah. Okay. So next week.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay. What level are you on?
Probably below the first one.
Yeah, I think more than that. And of course, it can be mixed. I mean, sometimes in the day you may be on Anamaya. It's like you just, you're half asleep or something else, and you're, dying of thirst. In a dream state, you're dying of thirst, and you just eat too much salty food at a big feast, and you half wake up, and you're under your covers, and you can't find your way out of your covers. Ever had that experience trying to push your way out? That's Anamaya. But some people are stuck in that, for their whole lifetime. It's going around like that. Yes, sir. He's raising his hand here. Yeah.
You mentioned the dialogue between you and Mountain Lake. How do you tell whether your thoughts are in your heart?
This by how do you tell whether your thoughts are in your head or in your heart? Because you see where they are. If you got to ask the question, they're in your head. Yeah. How do you tell whether your thoughts are in your stomach or in your head? Because where is the energy coming from? I mean, some devotee was Rock Talk. We're trying to deal with one devotee, and he was very grumpy and angry and upset. And coming back, and some of the devotees said, "Take him to the restaurant." They said, "Yeah," the person was completely cheerful. And yeah, I mean, with ourselves, how much do our, if we're hungry or this or that and stuff. Yeah, you can see Where am I getting my energy from to chant? Well, I got to do something now. Where do you look for energy? So many times I find myself looking to my stomach. I got to eat something. I'll get, but I don't want to do it always. I don't want to, get the energy from my stomach. Somebody else is getting their energies from the Muladhara chakra, which is urinating, defecating, and copulating. Okay, except that's how they, you know, life is a good opportunity to urinate, right? Yeah. I mean, they're just like beasts. Maybe it's 70%, and the other ones are going up, and maybe they have some real simple intellectual, in beer commercials, right? Budweiser beer. Why ask why? It's just for people. Yeah, just tell me what to do. Yeah, maybe they're good people. It's just their nature. They're never going to rise above that. But then they find a Brahmin or some higher class person, and they just, they're faithful and stuff. And okay, yeah. Okay.
Is it just a feeling?
Huh?
Is it just a feeling that we have? When I can sometimes tell that, when I'm angry, I'm here, not.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I know.
Yeah, this one. And I can feel in my heart when I'm chanting proper rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel the weight on my heart.
Yeah. And one time it was, what's his name? Gopal something. He's Bansi Gopal. Bansi Gopal, a biography by Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. He was sitting there, someplace Puri or something. He didn't talk much. And people were doing kirtan and stuff. And he said, 45 minutes and their hearts still haven't melted. Right? That's the beginning. Right? The Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 2nd chapter talks about 2nd canto, 3rd chapter. The heart has to melt. Are you soft-hearted? Yeah. Is your hard heart like a stone? Yeah. I first off, I couldn't even understand what it meant. Then I began to realize, well, I do have a heart. And I began to examine my heart, and I began to realize that it was like an automobile tire. And I wasn't as hard as a stone, but it was like a little bit of social. Yeah. And so then, but going on, I see that either I'm becoming senile or advanced. Yeah, your heart does become, soften. It changes. That's our process, is changing the heart. Because everything else, forget it, it's going to take too long and let it go. It is the heart is changed. To the time of death, everything else won't be able to hang on to it. Not there. So you can just see that after a while, myself is like, I just seeing I have to have, I was going to say soft, but like, what's the word? Functional. Yeah. It's when you get old, your short-term memory goes. This is Krishna's arrangement. So that now if I know something, I can't just be based on short-term memory. It has to be based on understanding it. I used to go for walks and new places I've been visiting. I'd go for a walk and notice different landmarks and stuff, Can't do that anymore because I don't remember them. So then I have to understand, where I am, the whole thing like that and so on. Yeah, this is good because your thoughts and stuff aren't going to make it anyway. Very few of them. Anyways, we speak of your sensuous things, the next body. But your perspectives, your attitudes and ideas and this kind of stuff, that goes, it makes it through. Yeah. It's like a high level memory system. It's like the operating system doesn't touch it, right? Yeah. No. Reserve memory. Yeah. Right? The computer walls. Otherwise it overwrites it. You gotta yep, you gotta understand. You gotta
raised so many times, even flash sometimes and stuff.
Yeah.
Number of times you can erase and put memory.
Yeah.
They have, limits.
Yeah.
It counts in memory.
So many cases I would guide because people are introspective and then they use that to design, to adjust the world, to come up with how many things are open. And they say, this is why my mind works and stuff. And they projecting it to make a machine. Yeah. So maybe we'll stop. That's kind of like everything I want to do with these programs, Other than that, Bhaktivedanta Library next week we'll be here.
That's the
Huh?
That's the Kendra from his house.
Okay, we'll be at Rasi Kendra's house, and maybe he wants us to talk about something. But anyways, this is why it's wide open. Prabhupada's books, and some people wanted us to talk about starting Bhaktivedanta, program, so we can talk about our perspective on it, the literature, what's available, how to study books. Different people study different ways, and at Chopadi, the farm, the Govardhan Eco Village. They have an academic institute there. It's Indian brahmacharis, but many of them celibates and just naturally life. They do one chapter a day, right? One chapter a day of the Bhagavatam. And in the morning they come in, and there's a quiz on, what they read the night before, and like questions and talking about it and stuff. And they know what's going to be the questions in there, but they have to be ready. Then there's an introduction to the next chapter, everything that's going on. And then the afternoon they go and do their own reading and stuff, and with the guided reading and stuff. And they come back the next day. Now, for what we were doing with our program here was one chapter a week. Yeah, and even some people said that was almost sometimes too much. Yeah, they're different people. For them, I don't think it's an over endeavor, because they can understand it, they can realize it and stuff in a certain degree, a practical way. Then 2 days a week they do physical work and there and stuff and so on. So it's a very, nice practical program for them. But of course, if you're an American grihasta doing one chapter a week, there's a chance that you're really gonna, you're gonna take it in differently and stuff. I'm noticing this sometimes. This is perfection. The classes in the morning, some of the stuff we discuss, I actually, apply it and see it happening, during the day. Of course, that's the perfection of life, no? That your classes are actually, related to what you're doing and studying and so on. Yeah.
Hari Vallabhi Mataji have a question, Maharaj.
Okay, this is in Spanish. We call this the ultima pregunta. It is the ultimate question. Mataji, what is the ultimate question?
You can ask question. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. I just want to know how you keep your Krishna conscious perspective while reading books from these authors like E.T. Hall and Carl Jung and all. And what is your motivation to read their books, especially, when we have kind of come to a conclusion that our Vedas are the best, or Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita have the topmost principles, then what makes you to read these books from these other authors? Is it just for preaching, or is it?
I'm not necessarily reading them anymore. It's kind of like now my whole process is basically chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada said that really, but that's the point. The books and the Maha Mantra are related. There's a relationship there in terms of development, Krishna Lila, Krishna's pastimes. If you're just reading the Krishna book, for example, and chanting Hare Krishna, then Prabhupada was, one drama, they put on a drama of the kidnapping of Rukmini, and it was all based upon, Bhagavatam. And then at one point, the drama, Krishna took Rukmini onto his chariot, the Sunday feast, and the Prabhupada stood up and said, and she wasn't a timid girl, she was a Kshatriya, She grabbed the reins from her husband, smiled at him, and she started, driving the horses and telling them where to go, so he could shoot at them and chase these rascals away, and show her what kind of wife he got. She was, helping. So anyway, it was nothing about that whatsoever in the Krishna book. So maybe probably just imagining, or maybe actually seeing, the way the Leela unfolds like that and so on. So reading the books and chanting, they go together, the pastimes. And the outside books, Maya Tatamidam Sarvam, Prabhupada used. Our books are authorities. For example, the categories of, what is it called? Ultimate cause, efficient cause, and material cause. You see Prabhupada using those. And I think probably Bhaktivedanta or Bhaktivedanta used it. Those are from Aristotle. Those come from Aristotle. So different things that we use, we take the best from different people. And if you're trying to communicate with people, and also very practically, there's, we talk about, ladies' dharma, men's dharma. And there are modern books which talk about it in modern circumstances. You can see, like, they're talking about things that the Bhagavatam is just going over them. The Bhagavatam thing talks about Vastu architecture, but it's like so minimal that all you know is that these are the basic principles and it exists. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't study Vastu. And so but the principles are there. What is Sankhya? And then from that, you can study Vastu, you can study Ayurveda and everything else, because it's all based on the principles of Sankhya. And why to do it and everything else, and personal motivation and the mentality. Yeah, the Bhagavatam gives you wonderful perspective if you're going to be a doctor and everything else, no? You know? And you understand different kinds of medication and how people, what they need. Tagore Sundar, what is it? It's hot milk with sugar. It contains a natural. Well, the Tagore Sundar there. What does hot milk with sugar contain? It's a natural tranquilizer you guys use. He's asleep. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, tryptophan, maybe. Yeah. Okay, tryptophan. Yeah, yeah. And there it is. It's there, a natural resource, right? Yeah. So it's to take the Bhagavatam's principles and be able to apply it in different ways that interest us, and also then to communicate with people, because I'm beginning for exactly that with Carl Jung. Jung's talking about a certain level in detail. And if you're going to be working on that level, you got to know it in detail because there's so many people and you got to apply it. But at the same time, too, uh, uh, the Bhagavatam, the language that these people talk about. For example, Carl Jung talks about individual and universal archetypes. Yeah, he's talking about the Paramatma and the subtle body. But so in their language then what they're talking about, and you can communicate with them. And they then see, oh, okay, so you have these things too, and how much they're going to be connected to us and not connected. It's maybe not in this lifetime, but definitely in the next. Many people, and Prabhupada says, many people will become devotees in the next lifetime. And what we're doing is planting a seed, because many people take the chance of changing the body, that much pressure and everything else to become serious and so on. So we're going to stop here now, but if anybody else wants to talk individually, please come forward. Thank you all very much for attending the fourth or fifth session of the Bhaktivedanta Library seminar. Hare Krishna. And all of our online audience here. Hare Lila.
Thank you, Maharaj.
How can I do this?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You call
Thank
here.
you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
How
Hope
many
you feel
people are
better.
online here?
There was 16, 17, now it's 13.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for the association. You're saving our life.
Much for giving such an excellent class, Maharaj. Vancha
Thank you so
kalpata
much, Maharaj.
patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo.
Uh-huh.
Sarvak Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
And library ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.